Is getting to Mars more of a reality now? It's always been a reality. Thoughts on people who voted for Trump because of the trans stuff? Uh, yeah, that's absurd. Um, a lot of, but again, it's the left is causing the problem in the first place. The left doesn't talk about it. The left has left the discussion up to the right. The right talks about it a lot. The left, they don't want to talk about why being trans is perfectly fine and you're born that way. They don't want to explain it. They run away from it. He talks about the science behind transgender and all those things, but they don't. And every time someone who's anti-trans, they just name call. They don't. That's not a good way to help the other side. Name calling and saying you support Trump, therefore you're that or this. That's not the right way to draw people into your side. So both the left and the right are at fault here. The right doesn't want to listen, they don't want to hear it, and the left has closed off any aperture for understanding or unification. So, yeah, we're in very dangerous territory right now. Thoughts on the new AI building? Look, I support AI, and I think that artificial intelligence is good, ultimately. Because intelligence is important. That's what makes society happen, intelligence. So when you can multiply intelligence, when you can add it together, you can multiply it, you can quickly reproduce intelligence, that's the key to everything. But I definitely don't want it being controlled by a few people. That's scary. Artificial intelligence can also be manipulated, just like people can be manipulated. It's no different. It's not infallible. And what we're seeing now is a lot of people pretend as if ChatGPT is objective or authoritative or some kind of arbiter of truth. It's not. It's just as susceptible to manipulation as us. So glad you lefties are irrelevant. No, we're very relevant. In fact, the only way the right can progress is if it has the left with it, but it doesn't. We're very divided, and not much is going to get done because we're so divided, and it's both parties' faults. It's all of our faults. Most people are now very toxic. We bicker more than we cooperate. So nobody's irrelevant here. I think that's just disingenuous. As much as you want to just push away the left and act as if we don't exist, we do exist. So this is what the right tends to do a lot. They tend to pretend as if those issues don't exist. Climate change, not real. Trans issues, not real. All these issues, not real. But those are going to come back and bite you in the butt. When you When you put out toxicity like that, it's going to come back and bite you. When you're divisive, it comes back to bite you. Red 40. I agree that we shouldn't be allowing companies to put so many chemicals in our foods, but you can't say, oh, good, red 40, but then, oh, no, vaccine bad. When vaccines are good, they help. They prevent disease. So you can't have it both ways and say, oh, only the things I like are the things that are good. That's not good. That's flawed. We don't have that anymore today. We lack that, right? We lack influencers who unite people instead of dividing. Almost every single one we see divides, alienates the opposition. They don't. They never unify. They never see things both ways. They never compromise. They're always looking for ways to get a quick jab at the opponent to make them look bad, right? Look, it's very, very natural to do that. But it's not helping us. It's hard. It's hurting us. And this applies to every one of us. Every person. We're all just people. And most people have good intentions. Most people are good people. That's the funny thing about all the ironic thing about this is that most people are good. It's just that we so badly want the other side to be just squashed. So we point fingers and we fight. Because we want to propagate our own beliefs, right? That's the kind of calculus we do in our minds. Okay, I believe in this, so I want to propagate this. I don't want to. We have very little time for. We give very little effort in helping the other side understand. It's a very human thing to do, but I'm just saying that this is a. Yes, I don't think any influencer today is a unifying influencer. I think every single one divides, left and right. The only one I could possibly see is perhaps Cenk Uygur. I think he's starting to recognize that we're not going in the right way. We're not going the right path. Religion is a divider? No, not really. Not religion itself. Religious people could be dividers. And so can atheists. A lot of atheists I see are dividers. Because what do? I believe in God. God's not real. What, are you crazy for believing that? That's ancient fairy tales. You see, it's a very common thing to do. You have a tendency to do this. but you're just dividing. I support Trump. You support Trump? That's ridiculous. You should be ashamed of yourself for voting for that person. Don't you know he's a rapist? Right? That, although you have a tendency to say that to the opponent, you're dividing. Nobody wants to hear that, right? So that's all. Just little things here and there that we can do that can help unify people. Because right now we're very polarized. Isn't that what you do? I've done it before, yes. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Of course I've made mistakes in the past. But what I'm saying is it's now time to change, and we all should be changing and doing better. Right now we're doing very poorly. We're polarized. Yes, the Stargate program, yeah. I don't know much about it. I really don't know much about it. It just was announced, so. But I think AI is fantastic. I think intelligence is great. If it's properly utilized, it can do great things. It can solve diseases that we've never been able to solve before. It can cure cancers. It can create new battery technologies. It can enhance robotics and AI in cars. AI can do a heck of a lot for us. But again, if we misuse it, we can doom ourselves. I don't believe in God. I see, this is the thing. A lot of people, especially atheists and people on the left, they think that if you befriend even a little bit, to any degree, the opposition, it's as if you've changed. It's as if your positions have changed. That's not true. Just because I try to unite and make some compromises with the other side in terms of communication, that doesn't mean that, yeah, exactly, tolerance. Just because I can tolerate the other side doesn't mean that I agree with them. You see? There's no reason why talks or debates have to be angry or heated. It's not needed. Although it's natural for that to happen, it's not needed, and every time we fall into that trap, we divide ourselves and polarize ourselves even more. So, yeah. Should we pursue ASI? Yeah. Why not? People don't realize how game-changing it could be to replicate intelligent beings. Intelligence, not just like what a computer can do today, but real intelligence, like human intelligence and beyond. That, something you can replicate like that, that's power. That's immense power. And people don't realize we're in for a big paradigm shift. A lot of people are in this kind of belief that there's nothing smarter than humans. There's no way anything could be smarter, or they don't see the fact that artificial intelligence is going to be smarter than we are, more conscious than we are, more aware than we are, more intelligent than we are. We are about to be we're doomed. Well, a lot of people who believe in religion and things like that, they see AI as a threat. They have a pessimistic attitude towards AI. I don't know. I don't know why. Perhaps it's because when you're religious, you believe that you have disciplined yourself to cloak all the unknowns as dangerous, right? If you notice, a lot of religious people will say, these kinds of people are demons. Satan sent them down for, it's a very common thing to do. If you don't understand something, you call them a demon or satanic, right? Very common. So perhaps that's what they're doing with the AI thing, right? They're saying, well, AI is too difficult for me to comprehend. We're going into now to the unknown. It's scary. It's demonic. It's going to destroy us. Just like they said about all the other technologies of the past. The phone, all these things. The internet. Afraid of how they would take our jobs. That's the least of our concerns. But yes, there's going to be lots of changes happening in the next 10 years. People are not going to see jobs the way we see them now. Look, there's a lot of things we don't know yet about the future. We don't know what the possibilities are or which path we'll take. We don't know yet. But I can tell you, if we continue being so polarized, if we continue being so hateful, so agitated about one another, if we continue in this anti-science, right? Look, it's now acceptable to just say, yep, the science, who cares about the science? That's not good. That's a bad sign, okay? That's a bad path to go down. You don't want to reject science. You don't want to reject things just because you don't like them. That's the wrong path. But it's like more and more people are falling victim to this mentality where it's like, yeah, forget the science. I believe whatever I want because it sounds good or feels good. That's the wrong path that we're taking right now, and that's what I'm concerned about. Look at climate change. It's like it's been erased from all discourse. It's been erased. Nobody talks about it. Look at the wildfires happening in California. It's almost as if nobody even mentioned climate change as a factor in public discourse. It's always, oh no, it's these people did it, or it's this guy, Gavin Newsom did it, or we're always pointing fingers at who did this, but we're not recognizing maybe we are the ones at fault for contributing to climate change, which was a factor in making those fires happen more deadly. Fires aren't going to stop. This is what the thing that people don't get. It doesn't matter who is governing California or president. It doesn't matter who the politician is. Fires are going to continue. There are going to be more fires. There are going to be more hurricanes. There are going to be more pandemics. You can't just take yourself out of the World Health Organization and say forget about climate change. Just get out of the Paris Agreement. Reject, pretend it doesn't exist. And then when it happens again, you're screwed. You've doomed yourself. That's what I'm concerned about. And it's not just the politicians that I'm concerned about, it's also the people. The people who don't have the ability to even question Trump. They don't have the ability to question their own politicians, and so it's just a cycle of stupidity. And look, in the end, the facts will always win. Okay, the facts always show themselves. It just takes time, but the problem is that we're delaying. When we continue delaying action, it's going to be worse and worse if we do nothing. So, I don't know. These are just some of my concerns. Thoughts on Joe Rogan being bald. Isn't it nice to be alive without every 2 seconds somebody saying thank you for the donations? Okay, sorry. But look, that's another thing that's happening that I'm concerned about. We are configuring social media in a way that promotes people like that who demand money all the time. They need the money to continue. It's also something I'm concerned about. That the strength of your voice is correlative to how much money you're given or donated. That's a problem. The content that's some of the most anti-science content is getting the most clicks. So the algorithms promote echo chambers. It's the worst. We're living in a very, very strange atmosphere right now. I just don't know how we're gonna get out of it. Okay, yeah. Has man landed on Mars? No, not yet. But a lot of people are skeptical of people going to space. because they see lots of problems down here. Why don't we spend the money down here instead of up there, right? That's the kind of sentiment we're seeing. But I think that we should be investing money in space. Not just because Mars and the moon could be habitats for us, but also because when you give people access to space, they're more influenced by the cosmic perspective, where you're looking down on the Earth as one fragile planet. That perspective is powerful. And if more people had that perspective, the world would be a better place. So I think that's why space is important. It gives us a new insight on who we are. Something happens to you when you see the Earth from that point of view. Everybody's so focused on living in their bubbles on the Earth, but if only they were more aware of the higher planetary consciousness, they can see and understand the fuller context. Mike has a plethora of arguments of God. They all have a commonality of nah. What do you mean? I have not seen any good evidence of a God, but I'd be happy to hear any good evidence. Although I'm not really concerned about if God exists or not. I really couldn't care, personally. But I debate the God topic because people need to be exposed to different ideas. That's all I care about. All I care about is, are you thinking? I don't care what you believe. I never care what you believe. I care if you are thinking critically and you're asking the right questions. As an atheist, could you accept Jesus as a historical figure? You could. I don't. I don't think he was a real person. Have you ever been religious? Yes. No way you don't think Jesus was a real person. Well, there's no evidence that he existed. What are your thoughts on Trump not addressing healthcare crisis? It's irresponsible. course it's irresponsible. I mean, what else could you say about that? Jay Dyer wiped the floor with you. Okay, can you provide the argument that defeated me? Even majority of atheist scholars believe. I don't care. At one point, the vast majority of scholars thought the earth was flat. That doesn't concern me. That's the fundamental problem with religion, is that it's unfalsifiable. There's no way to examine it with any scientific mindset. There's no method that you can analyze these religious claims seriously or fruitfully. It's all just a story, which is cute, but it's just a story, and that's something we have to finally accept. It's just a story. What would happen after we land on Mars? Where would we go? Well, we would make a settlement. You know, little housing. Space is fake? No, it's a real place. Space is a real place. Do I like Bill Nye? I do like Bill Nye. He's cool. Do you think it's even worth living on Mars? I do think it is. Personally, no, I wouldn't want to live there, but some people want to live there. George Washington being the first president is also a story. No, we have his body. We have his teeth, we have his clothing, we have his house. In fact, I recently been to one of his rental homes in Pennsylvania. We have documentation, we have signatures, we have everything we need to demonstrate that he was a real person. Bill Nye said we can't leave Earth. See, this is why the flat Earth conspiracies and all these conspiracies are growing in popularity, because people just don't understand science. They don't understand how to falsify things, how to examine things, how to do the research. They don't know how to do that. So what they do is they listen to whoever sounds good to them, right? Oh, this guy said this on TikTok. Bill Nye said it. Bill Nye said what? Who cares what he says? Number one. Number two, what about what he said means that the Earth we cannot leave the Earth? What does leave the Earth mean? What did he exactly say? You're being very vague, ambiguous, and you're not really doing a good job in demonstrating anything except that you just listen to whatever sounds good to you and you go with it. That's the problem, you know? With not being able to distinguish AI from real, it will only get worse. What do you mean by worse? Look, these are very deep questions. These are very hard questions. What is the future going to be like? We can't. It's hard to predict it. And we have to understand that initially, when we are introduced to new technologies, we have a tendency to shut it away, to say, oh no, it's going to be terrible, or be pessimistic about it. But those concerns are unwarranted. People in the 90s and 80s, they thought that computers would be the death of us. The internet, all these technologies were dealt with very similarly to AI. Yet now we use computers every day and phones every day. I suspect the same will probably happen with AI. It's already happening where most people are now on a daily basis using AI. And that's going to increase, I suspect. So just be aware of what's happening. And I know it's scary. It's scary to live in our time where all these uncertainties confront us. Who were the first people? There were no first people. Although it's very natural to think that there must be a first person, there was no such thing. There could not have been a first person. It's not how evolution works. Evolution is a gradual change and shift. It is not a one day you're this, the next day you evolve into a Raichu from a Pikachu. This isn't Pokemon. There's a very incremental progression, and it takes generations. So if the further back you go, you find that my parents were just a little bit different than me, and their parents are just a bit different. You go back 1,000 generations, they were just a little bit even more different. Go back 10,000 generations, you eventually get to a point where it's an intermediate species in between human and non-human. Australopithecus afarensis is one of the human common ancestors that diverged from chimp ancestors. And if you go far back enough from then you find that there's just other apes. So you can keep going on and on until you get to the first living organisms, about 4.5 billion years ago. And those originate from the earth itself. Life comes from non-life. And what that means is organic molecules. You're made of organic molecules. Nothing about you is alive except for the fact that these organic molecules interact with each other chemically. That's what life means. So it's no surprise that life comes from non-life, because non-life is just the stuff we are already made of. But they electrochemically interact with each other and collectively yield you. So that's what life means. Yap. I know people don't want to hear it. I understand where you're coming from. It seems like I'm just yapping. But if you listen and you ask questions about what I'm telling you, maybe you'll learn something, you know? He thinks he knows what happened 4.5 billion years ago. We do. We have stromatolite fossils. We can see living fossils. Fossils of living beings 4.5 billion years ago. We have zircon crystal rocks that we can date, which demonstrate the Earth is this old. So we can infer based on lots of scientific data points. Hey Google, turn off the light. When have we observed life from non-life? Every day. Every time you drink a glass of water, you're converting that non-life, right? Water's not alive, but in your body it gets converted into life. That's because life is nothing more than a biochemical process. It's not an object, it's a process. You can't date fossils. Sure, we can date fossils. It's not carbon dating. There's various different radiometric methods. It's not just carbon dating. And we can also date them based on the layers in the geological strata. That's how we date the fossils. It's not just based on carbon dating, if that's what you're going to say. How did the universe begin? It didn't begin, necessarily. Nobody knows. We don't even know what the question means. Did it begin? Beginnings and endings are relative. They're subjective. They're arbitrary. Time might be something different than we intuitively understand it as, like a ticking of a clock, right? When did today start? 12 o'clock a.m. Well, that's just an arbitrary number. If you're asking time itself, we don't know what time itself is. We still don't know. It's a very deep question. Is this the guy that was cooked by Jay Dyer? Sure, if you can give the argument that he beat me with, go ahead. I'd love to hear it. If not, you can't just say he beat me and not give the reason why. Why don't you debate them on veganism? Well, they don't want to hear it. Doesn't the scientific evidence we have point towards a beginning? No, there is no evidence of a beginning. Matter in motion. Motion's relative. Nothing is really moving in any absolute sense. Motion is relative. It's not a real thing. An expanding universe is an evidence of a beginning. No, it's not. Because the universe can expand, contract, expand again, slow down, speed up, stop, reverse. We don't know the full context of the universe's expansion. There's some evidence that it can collapse. The dark energy that caused the expansion can actually decrease in intensity. Recently left Christianity, and looking back, I felt like I was so brainwashed. It can feel like that. It definitely can feel like that. And that's normal. It's part of life to be wrong, or to recognize that you're wrong. It causes you to learn. Just realize that now that you've changed, you've learned something very valuable. It's important. Thoughts on people who turn to religion for hope? Okay, great. Religion gives you hope, but that's not the only way you can be hopeful. Science gives me hope. Every scientific discovery we make gives me hope of a better future. That somewhere out there we can make the world better by uniting and cooperating together, using our brains. Every time we discover vaccines or cures to cancers or cures to anything, or new technologies that make our lives better. I mean, look at the world we're living in right now. We have phones and TVs and cars, and I can turn on my key 2 seconds right now and go anywhere I want in the world. I can travel across the world. I can go to space if I want to. That is all enabled because of science. And that gives me hope, very deep hope, that we can use our intelligence to make our future even better. That's astounding. So, to me, not only is the idea that religion is the only way you can be hopeful false, it's also kind of pathetic that that's the only way you can be hopeful. That there is a guy out there who you're waiting on rescuing you, and you have to just keep crossing your fingers that he'll get to you one day. that is, it's a very human thing to do, but that to me, from my perspective, seems a bit pathetic when there are far more better things to be hopeful about and hopeful by. Things that are really having an impact on our daily lives. But I don't want to die. Nobody wants to die. But what's the point of wishing and hoping that someone's going to stop you from dying? Why not, instead of shunning it away, death, why not embrace the fact that one day this might not last forever? Because what makes life so valuable is the fact that it's finite. The finitude of life, the fact that it ends, is something that even gods, if they exist, couldn't do. The finitude of life is precious, and it's what makes life valuable. The fact that we do die, and this does end. It's kind of like eating ice cream, right? It's your favorite dessert. It tastes great. One night you're eating a bowl of ice cream, and you're like, yes, I love ice cream. This is fantastic. The next night you do it again. Yay, ice cream. The next night, another bowl of ice cream. You're like, oh, great. The next night, do it again. Another bowl of ice cream. Okay, it's good. The next day, imagine doing that for the rest of your life, forever. Well, even though the ice cream tastes good, after a few times, it's gonna get disgusting. You're gonna be sick of it. You're gonna want it to end. And that's kind of what our life is like. Although life is amazing, it's amazing because there's an end to it. It stops. In a way. But there's many other reasons why you should be hopeful and happy to be alive and not worry about death. Is space-time eternal? Well, we don't know. Nobody knows. It could be. What are your thoughts on abortion? Well, if your goal is to save babies, then you should be supporting abortions. Because if you stop people from getting abortions, that doesn't save babies, that only kills more women. Because abortions are a necessity for many people. It's going to happen no matter what. If you block it or stop it, or you try to stop abortion from happening, they're going to still happen because women have done it for thousands of years. But all you're doing by banning abortions is making it more difficult and more dangerous for women to get abortions. And that's only going to kill them more. And there's plenty of studies that show that women are dying more because of the abortion bans in Texas. So from a pragmatic basis, it makes no sense to be pro-life if you think that babies should be saved. And on another account, I think that the right to my body supersedes the right to the baby in my body. It's my body. So the fact that the fetus is inside of my body, or a woman's body, that, I think, warrants the right to get an abortion. Because our bodies should not be controlled by our governments, in my eyes. So if you choose to get an abortion, that's your right. If you choose to not get an abortion, that's also your right. Both can be happy. There's no reason for pro-lifers to be so upset about this. Mark, aren't you vegan? When you eat those chicken eggs, you complain. No, I don't complain when you eat chicken eggs. What I'm saying is, it's wrong to exploit animals that you don't have to. See? When it comes to a chicken, or a hen, or a cow, or dog, or any kind of animal, they're minding their own business. They're not in your body. They're minding their own business. And then you come along and say, oh, give me your body. Let me kill it. Let me distort it. Let me destroy it. That's what I'm saying is wrong. Abusing an animal is wrong. So it's not just consuming eggs that's bad. That's not what vegans think. What we think is wrong is when you exploit an animal for their body. And that's what we're against. And that's what most people should be against if you think that we shouldn't abuse dogs. It's not a stretch to think that we shouldn't harm animals if you think we should not harm dogs or cats. Hey Bridget, how do you deal with toxic religious family members? Luckily, I have a very supportive family who don't exhibit any toxicity towards me. But, look, if it's hurting you, I would try to confront it, see how they respond, and if they respond harshly, I would just walk away and consult other people around you who can help you. It's a very hard thing to say, but I don't have much experience with it. But I would try to consult with them, with your family members who are religious, and explain to them why you believe what you do, and talk to them, really talk to them. And if they still are being negative towards you, then you might have to just walk away. How are we not valued above animals, but we are valued above the babies? I never said we're not valued above animals. I do think I'm valued above a dog or a cat or a cow. But that's not relevant. What's relevant is the threshold of value, and animals meet that threshold. When it comes to a baby, just like when it comes to an animal, if an animal were to come up to me and try to harm me, I would kill it. I would kill the animal. Just like a baby, or a fetus. If the fetus is in my body without my consent, and I don't want it in my body, I have the right to evict the fetus from my body. That's my body. Nobody should be held hostage. Like, you must carry the child to birth. That's ridiculous. You know, imagine if somebody had cancer. Like, oh, you must carry the cancer to birth because it's a living human. That sounds crazy. Okay. Were you ever religious? Yes, Bridget, I was religious. How old am I? 30. Put up the God is imaginary. Yeah, I do want to debate soon, but you should have stayed in your 20s. True. I miss my 20s. Keep doing your thing. Thank you. Do you think debates help people change their minds? They do, yes. But a lot of people are not efficient at helping people when in those debates. A lot of people that do debate end up alienating more than they help. So yes, they might help a few people, but in the end, they might cause more people to just be, put off by your display there. What is your morality and view that allows you to make claims that something's bad or good? It's called having a brain. I have a brain that can distinguish what's good or bad based on preferences, right? To me, morality is just what we think is good, what we think is bad, things we do like and things we don't like. It's that simple. There's no more than that, right? Even if you believe in a God, all you're doing is saying, by saying God thinks this is good, all you're really saying is God prefers this, right? So to me, I see morality as just a preference. We prefer things to be this way. We don't prefer things to be this way. Good, bad. It's that simple. A lot of your reasonings are, that's ridiculous, or that's crazy to say. I don't know the context of what you're talking about. Can you elaborate? It seems like a caricature of my opinions and views, but go ahead and elaborate. What proof would you need to turn to Christianity? Any evidence would convince me. Any good evidence. How is it wrong if someone steals from me to feed the family? It's a great question, right? Now we're getting into muddy waters. Is it wrong if a homeless person steals from a billionaire to eat for lunch? To me, it depends on the context. In most cases, I would say, no, it's fine for that homeless person to steal from a billionaire so that they can survive. I think that's justifiable. But there's also some instances where it's not. It all depends on the context. And that's why morality is a very, very complicated subject. Very complicated. We humans want things to be black and white. We want things to be easy and simple. It's either right or wrong. But there's always a gray area. There's always a intermediate domain in which questions arise about what's good or bad. There are unknowns. There are questions that we can't answer very obviously. Is murder always wrong? Well, murder by definition means unjustified. So yes, murder by definition is always wrong. So then it's objectively wrong. No, that's not what objectivity means. Objectivity does not mean always. Philosophically speaking, it's more like stance independency, right? There's a claim you're making or a statement you're making that is beyond anyone's stances or opinions about that statement, right? There's a fact about it. That's what I reject. I don't think there are any facts about morality. Moral statements aren't true or false. I think that they're just, it's like saying, is it true that ice cream is good? There is no true or false about ice cream, it's just a preference. So I don't think we can say that anything is objectively good or wrong. But it doesn't mean that we can't say that it's wrong or good. We can still have a subjective reference frame. Do I believe there's a soul? What's a soul? Where is it? I don't see any evidence of it. I mean, if there is, how could you know it's there? A lot of people think souls mean the energy or the consciousness of ourselves, but I think that consciousness is physical. I think that there is a physical aspect to everything. Consciousness is, to me, just like what life is. Life is an emergent process, just like consciousness is an emergent process of organic molecules in the brain, in the body. There is no molecule of consciousness or a molecule of life. Consciousness is not an object, but it describes a process. And the process, what is entailed by those processes, are physical objects interacting. Why are you atheist? I'm an atheist because I think that there is no good reason to believe in a God. Whatever God means. I think the word God is ill-defined, it's ambiguous, it's hard to define. So I remain skeptical about this thing. Why don't you believe there's a creator, given how complex everything is? Yeah, that's a very natural belief, that look at how complicated the universe is. There must be somebody who made it. It's a very natural thing. But how about things like the weather? The weather's complex. The weather's a very complicated system. How come nobody says, isn't the rain evidence of God? Why don't we any longer believe in the rain gods or the thunder gods? Because that's silly. We now know why the rain comes down. We know now why the thunder happens. So just like when you look at the world and see it's complicated and complex, and you go, wow, there must be somebody doing it, you're doing the same thing that the ancients did with the thunder. Oh look, thunder, I don't know how it happens, therefore God. But just like everything else in the world around me, I think there are good naturalistic explanations that do a fine job in explaining why they happen in a complicated way. That's why there's no need for a God to make anything, because we have natural instances of everything that we understand, and there are natural possibilities for everything. Another reason why I don't think it's designed is because look at some of the redundancies in our biology. I mean, inherently in our DNA, it is muddied with all kinds of errors. I mean, our DNA is built upon errors and mistakes. Who would design that? What kind of intelligence would design such an unintelligent thing as DNA? It's a very overly complicated molecule. Most of our DNA is faulty. It doesn't work. It's not activated. Most of our DNA, in fact, if activated, can kill us, can cause diseases. That isn't something that a very smart man would design. I think that's what something nature would yield over billions of years of evolution. Evolution which in itself does not require any optimization of the DNA, but just a process in which it over time changes based on the survivability of the species it inherits. That's all I can say. You believe in source. Don't know what source means. What was the first mover? Ah, yes, the old Aristotelian idea of a first mover, in which it's like the universe is like a chain of events, like a domino effect, where you have all of us are dominoes being toppled over by an original domino that was toppled over by an original main or crater. The problem is that the first big problem that is obvious here is that motion isn't a real thing in the universe. It's relative. There's no absolute motion in the world. So the way we describe nature is such that it's a moving entity, or things within it are moving in an absolute way, as described by Aristotle. That's a false narrative. That's a false notion of motion. So if you're starting off with a false understanding of motion, how can we possibly accept that argument? But also, why does there have to be a first motion? Why can't things go on infinitely into the past and future? Why can't time be infinite in its passing? I don't see why it couldn't. Y'all stop disrespecting him. He's just voicing his opinion. Thank you, but it's okay. I've dealt with plenty of hate. Do you believe Jesus was a real person? I don't know. I don't see any good evidence for it being a real person, but it could be. It could be a real person. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Much like Elvis was a real person, and today a lot of people make stories about Elvis. Right? Some of them are supernatural. Oh, he's coming back from the dead. But the stories are popular, but they're not true. So perhaps that was kind of like what Jesus was. He was like the Elvis of the ancient times. People liked him. They thought he was a cool guy, and they made stories about him. Just like we do with every figure. Look at modern celebrities. Look at how many people make up stories about all kinds of celebrities. It's very human to idolize people and make them seem more incredible than they really are. So I wouldn't be surprised to find out that that's what we did with Jesus and all the other people in the Bible. And by the way, the stories in the Bible were orally passed down for centuries before they were written down. And it's no wonder why we get so many different versions of the Bible, so many different translations, and over time, it's just been so squeezed and so stretched and manipulated that how could you possibly trust what you're getting today? It's not likely to be very accurate if you're reading a Bible today. It's like telephone, the game telephone, right? You talk to 100 people, you have them pass down the same sentence. By the time it gets to the 100th person, it's a totally different story, totally different sentence. So I wouldn't put too much credence in the Bible. But why die for it? Who said they died for it? That's another claim you're making. See, this is I mean, that's a very common thing to say, Oh, the apostles, they were martyrs for Jesus. But that's a claim. You're stacking a claim upon another claim, and now all you have is a bunch of claims. We don't know if they were really martyrs. We don't know what they were martyrs for. And we also know that throughout history, lots of people died for all kinds of silly things. Retrospectively, we know are silly, right? Like the ancient Mayans, they died for their gods. Does that mean the ancient Mayan gods are real? No, that's not a valid inference to make. So we have to be very cautious if we're going to tether ourselves to certain narratives, because bias can get in the way. We can suffer from some cognitive dissonance. How do you explain the explosion of Christianity in the Roman world? Oh, they used to force it on people. A lot of the church fathers, we now know, used to harm pagans at the time. For example, Hypatia was a Roman philosopher at the time. And she was spreading paganism, and she was talking out against a lot of it against Christianity, and the Christian priest and bishop went there and they killed her. They were burning pagan churches and temples, right? The Roman emperors and the Roman bishops did a lot to prevent the spread of other ideologies, and they propagated their own. So that's one of the big reasons why it spread, by force. But another reason why is because, look, it's a very appealing thing to believe. Church gives you a sense of belonging, that you belong in somewhere, that you're connected with your tribe and your community. That's what we all yearn for as people. We all yearn for connections. So the Christian thing gives you that very well. And it gives you rules and morals and all kinds of great things that we love as people. It gives it all into one big book, and you get all of it in one big book. Very convenient. Very appealing. It's no wonder why it would spread. But it still doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it true, unfortunately. What do you think is the best point that shows the Bible is inaccurate? The first sentence. In the beginning there was the God and the light. He made the earth before the plants. The plants before the sun. And scientifically speaking, the first story of the Bible, Genesis, is completely off. It's obviously fabricated by some ancient goat herders who didn't know anything about the science. But a lot of Christians will say, well, who cares about that? There may be some inaccuracies, but that's just what God wanted. So sometimes, even if you show a Christian that the Bible's inaccurate and there's contradictions in it, they'll say, well, it's okay. Whatever. I still believe that God did it, right? And that's a very common sentiment. So it's difficult to kind of when you're dealing with Christians who inherently don't have a good sense or keen sense of falsification, what that means, when they don't hold themselves up to a scientific standard, when they don't care about being accurate, it's hard to talk to those kinds of people. Because every time you say this is wrong, they say, well, it doesn't matter, they'll just ad hoc make up something else to excuse their way out of that problem. Kind of like if I said, there's a dragon in my closet, or a dragon in my garage, or I have a dragon here, and you're like, okay, where is it? I'm like, well, it's It's in my closet. You can't see it, but it's in there. Trust me. And you go, then you're like, okay, show me the inside of the closet. There's nothing there. Oh, well, this dragon's invisible. It doesn't appear with light. You're like, okay, well, what can we do? Can we throw some paint on it to reveal it? Oh no, it's paint doesn't stick on this dragon, right? Kind of like that. After a while, after all the excuses, their narrative is reduced to something that is impossible to demonstrate, impossible to falsify. How about Islam? It succumbs to the same issues. Same exact issues. Why do you think religion was made? Religion is a very natural human thing to do. It answers some of the deepest questions. Religion is a very poetic way of expressing yourself. Religion's a great thing. And on its own, it's a great thing because it's a way of humans expressing gratitude, love, patience and morality and all these great things that... So it's not a surprise that people would write down poems and stories to reflect their reverence they have for the world. That's why it was... So it's not like one person decided to make up religion one day. It's a very human thing. It's evolved with us through time. But at the same time, the stories that we can conjure up are very susceptible to human manipulation, interpolation. Very unreliable if you're just trusting the story at face value. So, you have to be cautious. What do you think of people who claim that they've seen spirits? Cool. Next time you see one, take a picture, Look, I'm not here to say spirits don't exist. I'm not here to say that. I don't know if they exist. I just want evidence. Right? I just want to see some kind of evidence for this kind of thing. Whatever a spirit means. What even is a spirit? This is another question that rises. What is a spirit? Some will say, well, it's a ghostly figure. It looks like a person, but it can move through walls. Oh, okay. So let's test for this. How do you make a spirit appear? Where do you see them? Are there places that you see them more often than others, right? These are questions that we should be asking ourselves before we start saying, yeah, they exist, right? What if these spirits are delusions? What if they're hallucinations? All these questions have to be answered before we can progress forward on this issue. If we don't have enough data, then we can't progress. We're stuck. We don't know. Nobody knows. So next time you see a spirit, take a picture with your camera or ask it a question. Where do you come from, spirit? Do something to test it, to see what it's all about. Do you think there's life outside of Earth? Well, yeah, I think if you take a handful of sand, scoop up a handful of sand, it's about 10,000 grains of sand. But there are more stars in the universe than grains of sand, not just in your hand, but on all the beaches of the Earth combined, okay? That's a lot of grains of sand. That's a lot of stars in the universe. It's about 10 to the 24. It's no doubt in my mind that there is something out there that is living like we are, based on the sheer mathematics. The problem is that these aliens are probably very far away. We couldn't communicate with them because vast distances are vast and communication is slow. So we're kind of in a way cut off from other aliens out there, perhaps. But we don't know. We still don't know if they're out there. Either way, if we're alone or if we are common. It's crazy to think that there's other beings out there. We also know that life is very easy to make from scratch. You don't need too many exotic materials to make life happen. You just need some lipids, some phosphates. They're found naturally in space. We have found the building blocks everywhere, on rocks and asteroids and other planets. The building blocks of life are very common. And life occurred very quickly on the Earth's surface. So to me, it's like life is probably going to be very common out there. Are you still vegan? Yes, veganism is a very moral option to have. It's the right thing to do. What do you think of halal meat? Faster, less painful death. That's ridiculous. Because instead of slicing its neck, you can just not eat it at all, right? So I think halal is still wrong because you don't have to consume any animal. You don't have to kill any animal. It's not needed. It's, to me, not justified. If you think that it's okay to slice a goat's neck open, is it okay to slice a dog's neck open? The halal way. Is there such a thing as halal dog meat? If not, then why do you think it's good to slaughter a goat or a cow that way? It's not. To me, it's never justified. Unless you're trying to survive and have no other option, but it's not justified to do that to an animal. We don't have to eat meat. We don't have to consume meat. It's we just don't have to. No, halal is not better than the other torture. It's the worst, in fact. One of the worst ways to slaughter an animal. You're letting it bleed to death. You're slicing its neck open. That's not love. That's not generous. That's slaughter. That's torture. That's not justified to me. I mean, how could you possibly think that slicing somebody's neck open and letting them bleed out with no painkillers is good? That's absurd. That's crazy, right? Come on, let's think about this real quick. Look at what you're doing, right? That's not needed. You don't have to do that. We don't have to eat cows or pigs or chickens or any animal. We can just be vegan very easily. It's not that hard. But they aren't smart. Okay, so you're saying intelligence, if somebody's not smart, we get to harm them? Is that your reasoning here? Do you want to go that way? Do you want to go down this path? Whoever is not smart, we get to harm and kill? I don't think that's a good morality either, okay? I don't think that's justifiable either. You don't want to do this. You don't want to debate veganism with me, guys. You're not going to win, okay? You're not going to win with me. I'm sorry. We evolved from eating meat. There's studies that show monkeys on meat diet are way smarter than vegan. No, first of all, we don't. There's no evolutionary advantage for eating meat today. We don't have to eat meat today anymore. Even if in the past it was, it no longer is an advantage. Secondly, there's actually evidence to the contrary, that meat actually causes more brain decay in terms of arterial contraction. Your arteries can get full of cholesterol, and those arteries go into your brain too. So if you clog up your arteries with meat and dairy and cholesterol, you're just making it worse for your brain in the future. So there's actually evidence against meat eaters being smarter. There's no evidence to the contrary, in fact. So I think that's nonsense, to be frank. Creatine is in meat. Your body can make creatine just fine without meat. There's nothing in meat that you need or you have to get in meat that you can't get elsewhere. How does energy not leave black holes? What do you mean? Energy is not a substance. Okay, energy is not a real thing. If you're talking about matter or particles or photons, things like that, the amount of energy required to leave the black hole is higher than the energy the particles in matter have. And that's why they get sucked into the black hole. They don't have the ability to escape because they don't have enough energy to leave. Nothing can. The gravity well of a black hole is so steep that even light does not have enough momentum to leave. What's your DHA and testosterone? Just fine. I love how you say you're vegan and everybody's concerned about your blood work all of a sudden. Meanwhile, people eat McDonald's, nobody is concerned about their blood work if they eat McDonald's every day. But me, who is somebody who's very healthy, I get asked this question every second. It's astonishing. We don't need your negative atheism. I don't know what that even means. I'm not being negative here. I'm not trying to be negative if I am. No, it's pretty easy to go vegan. It took me one night. Less than 12 hours. look, veganism is not a diet. It's an ethical stance, right? It's a principle you abide by. And most people already agree that we shouldn't harm animals. That's essentially what veganism is. It's upholding the rights for animals, recognizing that they have rights too. The right to life. Just like a dog or a cat has, so do we. So do the animals. So do cows and pigs. They all have rights to life. So there's no reason why we ought to harm them. Insects too? Yes, insects as well. Where do you get your protein from? Beans, pastas, rices, tofus, quinoas, nuts, seeds, fruits, even vegetables have protein. I just had a big salad before with leafy green lettuce. We had olives, we had avocados, tomatoes. I had some olive oil and vinegar. It was delicious. Tomatoes. Lots of protein and lots of good tasting, yummy foods. I love eating meats. Well, you know what they say, like mother, like son. Okay, no, just kidding. That was harsh. I'm sorry. You seem more content. I try to be. I'm trying. Beans and quinoa are carb sources, yes, but they also contain protein. Beans have actually lots of protein, like lentils, for example. Lentils have about 10 grams of protein per serving. I eat like 2 servings of lentils, some other beans. I had some sunflower seeds today, some avocados. You add up all the protein you get per day, it's like 50, 60, at least 60 without even counting. It's probably up closer to 100 grams I'm getting per day. I don't even check the labels, right? I don't count calories. I just eat, and I'm perfectly healthy and fine. Yeah, and if you want more protein, you can just eat more food, right? If you're trying to be a bodybuilder, there are vegan bodybuilders who get 300 grams of protein per day. It's not that hard. Okay, you can look up their meals. I don't know what they eat, but they eat probably all kinds of beans and tofus and all kinds of stuff like that in higher quantities. You lost to Jay Dyer. Okay, so can you provide the evidence that I lost to Jay Dyer? Can you provide the argument? Love your content. Unfortunately, I love steak more. Oh, I understand why people love steak. I used to love eating meat and seafood, especially when I was non-vegan. I used to love eating it. It tastes good. The problem is that you're abusing somebody, right? Every time you do eat that steak, you're abusing somebody that didn't have to be abused. See? That's the problem. The problem is that I'm not a vegan because I don't like the way meat tastes. I like the way meat tastes. The problem is that you're harming somebody for it. You see? See the difference? So there's nothing wrong in itself with eating meat or liking the way it tastes. What's wrong is when you abuse an animal for that. See? And unfortunately, the way modern agriculture is configured, we must breed billions of animals in cages and farms and these big factories, and then like a conveyor belt, they're thrown into these gas chambers and thrown into these electrocution chambers and all kinds of different ways of torture and killing. That to me is not ethical. Not enough nutrients. There's plenty of nutrients in plant-based foods. In fact, some of the most nutrient-dense foods are plant-based. Things like beans and vegetables, potatoes, very nutrient dense. There's no need to eat meat. And in fact, people love to say, oh, steak is healthy, but steak has very little micronutrients. There's no vitamin C in it. There's no vitamin D. There's no very lacking in B vitamins. It lacks in vitamin E. There's lots of vitamins that it lacks in. Whereas lots of fruits and vegetables and other plant-based foods are very high in those nutrients. Hey Ben, how are you? Nice to see you. Yeah, and one serving of mango or fruits or vegetables also gives you lots of iron and zinc and phosphorus and selenium. Nuts and seeds have lots of nutrients as well. Also, meat contains heme iron, something you don't want in vast quantities. You don't want heme iron because it has been shown to lead to some cancers, some gastrointestinal cancers, some heart disease. Heme iron is something you don't want too much of, and that's why being plant-based lowers your rates of disease, your risk of disease. Vegans have lower risks of heart disease, lower risk of cancers, lower risks of all kinds of other diseases, arthritis, dementia, diabetes. The evidence for plant-based diets being better is overwhelming. Meat tastes good. Okay, I agree. I agree with you. Meat tastes good. I agree. But that doesn't mean you should abuse an animal for it, right? Imagine if a dog tasted good. Would you go ahead and go up to that dog and just slice its neck open for their meat? No. We would never do that. If you saw that happening on TikTok, you would go crazy. You would call the cops. But every day you do it to cows or pigs. But you're unaware because it's closed off. It's happening behind the closed doors of factories where they don't want to show you what happens inside. That's the problem, right? The problem is that you are contributing to actions that you can avoid. And you already don't like. Nobody likes factory farming. Okay? It's obvious that nobody wants this to happen to the animals. But we think that we have to, or we think that it's a necessity, but it's not. I don't want to eat pesticides. Me neither. That's why I purchase organic foods, right? You don't have to eat pesticides. But by the way, lots of the meat you consume contains pesticides as well. So, look, there's no way you're getting out of it. There's no way you're going to get out of consuming man-made chemicals. It's impossible. I mean, everything has microplastics in it today. Every single drop of water that you consume has microplastics in it. Every single molecule of food that you eat contains a little bit of microplastics. And, well, not every molecule, you know what I mean? Every bit of food, it's unavoidable now. And so if you think you're going to be better off as a meat eater, that's just malformed. That's misinformed. That's why I put reverse osmosis before drinking. I don't think reverse osmosis can actually get rid of microplastics either. I don't think we know of any way to get rid of them. At the moment, that could change in the future. Right? Maybe one day we'll have a device that could get rid of them. Put a spell on the water. Water, no microplastics. You hear me, water? That'll work. I feel like these Q&As are more chill than debates. Oh yeah, obviously. I mean, that's why I do Q&As, because you can't just debate every day. That's just, that can be like really harmful, actually. Not just for the audience, but also for me, you know, and the debater. It also can give you more perspectives than just debating, right? Because I feel like a lot of people that debate just debate the same thing every day, and you hear the same arguments every day. That's not going to help anybody, right? Q&A is a way of encompassing many different other topics that might help or inspire other people to think more. Soy protein is inferior and lowers testosterone. No, there's no evidence of that. In fact, soy is something, first of all, you don't have to consume as a vegan. I don't even consume soy at all in my diet. But even if you do, let's say you eat lots of soy, there's no reason why your testosterone will go down. It's actually very healthy for you. It's a very healthy thing to consume. There's no evidence that it goes down. In fact, vegans have been shown to actually have a bit more higher testosterone on average. But it's a little bit ambiguous there. Smoking. Someone told me we'll run out of lime if we only use plant-based fertilizer. Never heard of this. I haven't. For you, it's too emotional, but many people learn and change through debating or watching debates. Oh, I understand that. Yeah, no, debates are very powerful things. I think we should have more debates. Absolutely. The problem is that a lot of people don't know. Look, if your ultimate goal in debating is to help the audience, well, sitting there and regurgitating the same two answers every day is not going to help anybody. And if you're constantly berating the opponent, that's not going to help anybody either. So debating is healthy, but it has to be done the right way. Right? A lot of people don't know how to effectively debate right now. In fact, I believe that most debates are only polarizing. They're only further polarizing us. They're not helping us. Hi, Tim. How are you? Do you not eat tofu? I do eat tofu very rarely. Look, I mostly eat beans. I love black beans and pinto beans. I love all kinds of lentil beans. I'm a bean guy. And rice and pasta. I'm Italian, so I eat lots of pasta as well. I eat lots of salads, avocados, fruits. So I like to be whole foods. I'm more of a whole foods kind of guy. But sometimes I'll have some tofu or, some, vegan pizza or whatever. A vegan burger. Yeah, I do. I love bean burgers. I had a really good beet bean burger before. It was a really good one. It was one of the best burgers I've ever had in my entire life. And I used to love, when I was a non-vegan, I used to love meat burgers. But nothing beats that vegan burger I had. That was really good. Who's your favorite philosopher? I don't care for philosophy. I don't really care for philosophy. Like, no, I understand the utility of philosophy, but I don't care for researching certain philosophers that much. I really don't. You didn't have to send that, dude. You didn't have to send me that. I study scientists. I love science. I'm more of a science guy, so I love to study scientists. Carl Sagan is one of my heroes. So, in a way, he was a philosopher too, in a way, Carl Sagan. Science needs philosophy. Philosophy doesn't need science. It depends on your goal, right? It depends on what your goal is. If your only goal is to sit in your armchair and contemplate things a priori, well, yeah, of course, philosophy is fine on its own. But if you really want to know the real truth about things in the real world, you're going to need some science. Science is the thing that really gets you understanding the real world. And that's what I care about more than sitting there and, is morality a factor? It's a lot of the philosophical discussions are kind of just fruitless. They just go in circles, but whatever. Mike is a strict materialist. This is a good example of why philosophy just muddies things in a way. Materialist, what kind of... I don't... I believe in things that... I don't hold to any position if there's no good reason to believe it. That's just how I operate. Am I a materialist? Well, I tend to think that things are material in the world. I don't see evidence to the contrary. But would I call myself a materialist, a strict materialist, who thinks that it's impossible for the contrary to be true? No. So, if you want to call me a materialist, fine. But I don't question that too much. I don't care about the labeling too much. Does death ever scare you? Of course it does. I don't want to die. But at the same time, in facing the harshness of reality that we will die and that our time here is short and limited, I've learned to appreciate the life I do have, the very short life I do have, more. So it's kind of like a positive feedback loop of appreciation when you face the harshness of reality that there's no God, that this is all we get, this is our only life, and after I die, nobody's gonna care about me anymore. Once you accept that, well, then now this life becomes way more precious. It becomes something you want to cherish and really squeeze tight, and that's how I see things. I love life so much that I don't care or question the afterlife or what happens after. I just live and do my best. So, and that in a way is a very freeing thing. Very freeing to leave detach yourself from that kind of narrative that we so much want and yearn for. And you have so much empathy for others. Yeah, well, I really enjoy life. I enjoy people. I enjoy animals. I enjoy Earth. I enjoy astronomy. I enjoy learning. I really do enjoy life, and it's such a privilege to be alive in my eyes. So because of this, and because I don't need any other religion for this, right? Because I can come to these conclusions on my own. That's powerful. I've come to these conclusions on my own, without anybody trying to influence me. Otherwise, like anybody, like any kind of religious narrative or any kind of spiritual narrative, right? Or the law of attraction, or Christianity, or Islam, or all these different narratives that people are trying to sell me. It's like, no, screw them all. I reject all of that. And in this kind of domain I'm living in now, where it's like a bare bones perspective of life, where I don't believe in anything, it makes you think that, it makes you understand how precious life is. So there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that feeling. Nothing like that. It's not something that any religion can give you. So, look, in my daily life, I don't care if there's a God. I don't wake up every morning and go, is there a God? Oh no. I never question it anymore. Like, I'm beyond that right now. I like to talk about it because I like to help other people understand my perspective, right? That's all. I think if more people had my perspective, it would help the world in a way. That's all. That's ultimately what I believe. Because it kind of brings about humility that you can't get from believing in a God, especially when you think that God made the universe for you, right? Everything was designed for you. You start to believe that you're so special, right? Oh, the reason why the universe is here is because I had to be here. I'm the reason the universe is here. I'm above the animals. No, you're not. I'm above everything else around me. I'm above you because I believe in Jesus and you don't. You see where that kind of thinking leads to? It leads to a very arrogant, hubristic way of life. And it might not be obvious to the believer at the time, but they have inadvertently set themselves up into this arrogant path of delusion. Whereas in my eyes, I don't have that, and they think that they believe that because I don't have the Jesus thing, that I'm devoid of meaning. I'm devoid of any purpose. And I'm reduced to nothing because I think that we're just stardust. That's a very common sentiment from religious. Oh, you think you're just stardust? That's all? From their perspective, they think that is a deprived way of seeing things. But from my eyes, because I have a very reduced way of seeing things, and I have a very bare bones perspective, and I do recognize and acknowledge that we are just stardust, and I do acknowledge that we are just animals, just like every other. When I do acknowledge these things, all the meaning in the world emerges from that. A very keen sense of meaning and purpose emerges from that, because now it's like, wow, look at what we are. We are these very insignificant things, but look what we can do. Look at what we can do with this, right? That's the kind of freedom and power that emerges from this kind of perspective. Whereas the religious person's like, well, we have to do what God wants us to do. It's all fall in line, you know. It's a bit complicated. It's hard to get to this place, but if you do, it's a very powerful thing. Thoughts on vegetarians? It's a good start, but ultimately it's not the best. You're still harming cows and dairy farms. People don't realize, but cows go through lots of torture just to get you milk. Cows have to be impregnated. We have to impregnate cows forcibly just for them to produce milk. So it's not a good process. As long as I'm getting protein from that, I'm fine. Okay, let's switch this out with dogs. As long as I'm getting protein with dogs, with dog meat, I'm fine. Is that something you would agree with? As long as I'm getting protein from a dog arm or dog leg, then it's good. I don't think that's something you would agree with, right? I don't think you would think killing and harming dogs is okay. You know, it's just not needed anymore. And plus, even if you don't care about the animals, there are many environmental benefits and economic benefits of being vegan. Do you understand that 70% of land on the planet Earth is used, or arable land is used for farming animals? If we all went vegan, we would have more food for us. We'd have more food to feed the hungry. We'd have more water if we all went vegan. A lot of the water we use goes to animals to feed them. So in terms of economic benefits, well, do you understand that if everybody were vegan, healthcare would be cheaper? Because less people would be getting heart disease. Heart disease is one of the most common diseases on planet Earth. Why? Because people consume lots of meat. And if we stopped doing that, well, we'd have way less people dying of heart disease. That would reduce healthcare costs. So if you're so concerned about healthcare costs, instead of murdering CEOs, why not propagate veganism, which can help people and actually do better for helping bring down the cost of healthcare? Instead of murdering other people, murdering CEOs, that's not what makes change happen. What makes change happen is when you're behind a positive message that makes a real impact. Not being angry about it and going out and harming others. So anyway, what's XRP doing? I'm getting into crypto, guys. I'm going to become a crypto guy. Crypto. Do you think mass deportations will affect our economy? Absolutely. Of course. And not in a good way. In a very bad way, it's going to affect us. But look, hey, America voted for it, right? I didn't. Everybody else did, but that's a, you know, they'll find out in 4 years. We'll all find out in 4 years. No, but seriously, I think that a lot of people on the left demonize Trump, which is wrong. I think we should not demonize Trump, okay? Even though a lot of things he's doing is wrong, some things he's doing he's doing are okay. Very small number of those things, but the point is that we should be less divisive in our rhetoric when we confront people who disagree with us. And what I'm seeing is, a lot of people are now befriending people on the right, and a lot of people on the left are angry about that. We shouldn't be angry about it. Even though we disagree with Trump and other people on the right, we shouldn't be divisive about it. We shouldn't be polarizing about it. It's not going to help them, in fact. In fact, it's going to actually make them worse. See, people think on the left that if we become friends with people on the right, it's going to help them. That's the wrong way to see it. It's actually helping the left to befriend the right. See, it's like The Godfather, right? Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. There's power in befriending people you disagree with. There's lots of power there. The left doesn't see it, though. Neither does the right, by the way. The right doesn't see it either. The right is also divisive, but the point is that the left is being extra divisive because we don't like Trump. And we don't like what he's doing, and so we call him names, right? People call him, oh, he's a rapist, he's this, he's that, which is correct. But in doing that, in just calling him names, that isn't going to do anything for us. It's not helping us. That's just an echo chamber. Right? That's all you're doing. So, it's almost like Jesus said, love your enemy. Well, that's great. But we can also come to that conclusion without Jesus, right? We can. I said it too, not just Jesus. So anybody can come to the conclusion. So we don't need God for that, It's not empathy. You don't have to be empathetic towards them, okay? It's not empathy. It's tolerance. That's the thing we need more of. And I know we don't like it. We don't like being tolerant towards other people that we disagree with so much, but it's important. That's what's going to help us, both on the left and the right, to unify in a way that leads to progress. Because right now, there's no way we're going to... people think that the right's winning. Yeah, they're winning in attention, but right now they're not winning in terms of changes. They're not doing anything because they can't, because they have a divided Congress and a divided public. So again, we have nothing to lose by being more tolerant towards people we disagree with, sharing ideas with that, right? And expressing our ideas efficiently. And a good example of this is with the trans issue. A lot of people on the right are completely ignorant to trans rights and trans issues and what transgender means. Okay. They're ignorant about it. They don't want to talk about it. They want to reject it. But what do people on the left do? Every time these discussions occur about transgender people, the people on the left, what do they say? Oh, you're anti-trans, you're bad. That's all they do. They call them names. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're bad, you're that. That isn't going to help them. What helps them is to go, okay, you think transgender people are real. Well, how about this? How about the fact that there are scientific studies that show being trans is something you're born with? There are studies that show that the brain, the amygdala, the hippocampus, the amygdala, all kind of different parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, those parts of the brain is what gender is derivative of. Gender is derivative of brain chemistry. So gender is neurobiological, right? So people that are trans are born that way. Just like you're born gay, you're born lesbian, or born this. You see? See how that approach is a bit more productive than one where you're saying, you're just anti-trans, you're bad, right? You're a bad person, you're anti-trans. You see? You see how just a little bit different approach might help the other side and your side? So that's all I'm saying. Nobody wants to hear that they're bad people. I don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it. So stop doing it. Stop saying you're bad because you're anti-trans, you're anti-this. And this applies to both sides, especially the right. Okay, the right is even worse at this. The right is very divisive. And so all of us are just people. And all of us have good intentions for the most part. So let's stop demonizing our opponents. Let's stop demonizing people. Only to its common sense. Well, it used to be common sense that the earth was flat. That was common sense back then. Okay. But we've learned since then. We've learned that the earth is not flat, that it's actually curved. Okay. And the science demonstrates that. Just like in the science, the emerging science, and by the way, this science on transgender people it's very new. It's a very new domain of research. But it's potent in its ability to demonstrate the fact that the brain is very heavily correlated to sex and gender. See, I'm straight, but the reason why I'm straight is because of my brain. The reason why I'm attracted to certain people is because of my brain structures. The hypothalamus cells in my brain are wired in a certain way. Just like, now, a woman, what we typically call a female or woman, their hypothalamus cells are structured in a certain way that are different from mine, but correlated to transgender woman. They're the same. Cisgender women and trans women have the same types of hypothalamus cells, the same types of gray matter, the same types of white matter. They're the same. There's very, very strong correlations and similarities in trans brains, trans women brains, and cisgender brains. And that's why we know being trans is perfectly normal and fine, just like it's normal for me to be straight and people to be gay and lesbian. It's a normal, natural human thing to do. So, if only we could articulate this more. Instead of saying bad, bad. And look, the right is still going to reject the science, even if you show them. Just like people today still believe the earth is flat, even with countering data and facts. There's no cure for that. But we can still do make a great deal of progress if we just slightly altered and modified our methods in debating. Yeah, so people are saying it's not normal. When I say normal, I mean it's something natural, right? It's something that it's part of the brain. Normal, I should have said natural instead of normal. It's not normal. Yeah, it's not normal. It's very uncommon to be transgender, just like it's uncommon to be gay or uncommon to be, have green eyes. Just because something's not normal doesn't make it wrong, right? So that's an important distinction to make there too. But look, guys, these issues are complicated and are growing in complication with time. Look, we're learning more about the world. We know more today than any generation ever before. So it's not that people on the right are dumb or ignorant. It's that the world is getting complicated in terms of the things we understand. And we, as people who debate people on the right, people who oppose us, we have to recognize this in the context of this. That education has to change. We have to adapt to the new information. So as the issues become more complicated, so does our understanding have to accordingly increase in complexity. I was born a dog. I identify as a dog. Well, unfortunately, gender isn't a species thing. Okay, it's not about your species. It's about the brain type, your neurobiology. So, even saying that, it makes no sense. But that's a nice try to you thinks he's a dog, but no, it's not about your species or your anatomy. It's about your neurochemistry. Don't call it natural without having an argument for it. Oh no, there's not just an argument. There's science behind it, right? There's tons of studies, and I actually have a video on my YouTube channel showing the studies. I list at least 10 studies on transgender folks that back up everything I'm saying. So you can go look at the video. You can go look at the research on this. There's plenty out there for you to go learn. All right. What's up, Keith? The wild Mike appears. What's up, man? I don't know. Going live is kind of soothing for me in some ways, so I thought I'd come on, but it can get quite addicting and be a big time waster, so I had to be careful. I gotta better manage my time. But yes, I do hope to get back to debating. Perhaps, maybe. How long did I take a break for? A few months. Atheism is the greatest fairy tale ever told in modern times. Okay, why do you think that? Thank Trump, you're back. Bro just yaps and has cleavage. Would you ever eat steak if that meant TikTok is back forever? No. Now, if you're gonna present a reductio like, oh, would you eat a steak to save 1,000 people? Yes, I would eat a steak to save 1,000 people, yes. But first of all, this is also a poorly constructed reductio because it's not eating meat that's wrong. What's wrong is harming animals. See, that's the thing that people don't often understand. If an animal does an evil thing, should it be killed? Wait, depends on the context. How long are you staying live for? Probably another 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, man. The past few months has been crazy, right? With the events in the world events. It's been pretty crazy. The world is getting more and more crazy, more and more complicated every day. Okay, what if a cow passed from natural causes? Would you eat the steak then? Yeah, that's a good question. You know, what if a cow dies naturally? Is it okay to eat the meat? It depends. Some vegans might say that's okay because you're not abusing the animal anymore, right? So to me, I still wouldn't eat it because not only is it gross to eat the dead carcass of an animal, but also, look, I wouldn't want my body eaten when I die. Out of respect. But it's kind of like a respect thing. You know, like imagine if I went to a funeral and I just took a bite off somebody who was in the casket. Like, that's kind of disrespectful. So the same applies to me and to the animals, right? I wouldn't want to take a bite into a cow or an animal if just because they die naturally. So that's what I'm saying. You're morally equivocating human value to animal value. No, not at all. Not at all. What I'm saying is that there is sufficient value in a cow. They meet a certain threshold of value such that we should consider them within our moral frameworks. That's all. I still think that cows are less valuable in many ways to humans. And some humans might be less valuable than others, right? Trump is low on the value level. But it depends. The point is that animals meet a threshold of value, and that's all. That's why we care about them. Mike, it's great to see you. Have you been? How have you been? Biden is pretty low. Kind of. I don't know of any politicians that I really like. Like, honestly, I don't know of any politicians that I'm like, yeah, you know. Bernie Sanders, I mean, I would like to see Bernie Sanders as president, but he's old. Like, he's just old now, right? Like, what's he going to do? I don't want old people anymore in office. I want somebody younger. AOC, honestly, I actually don't think she would be a good president. I don't agree with her on everything. Elon, hell no, no, definitely not Elon. Even though I agree with him in space, SpaceX, I think SpaceX is a fantastic company. They're doing great things, but I don't agree with him politically at all. Like I can't really think of anybody that really stands out. Um, yeah. Maybe Dean Phillips, the guy that ran for president on the Democratic side. He might be. I might get with him. Obama, I think he was pretty cool, but I disagree with some of his things. But yes, I think Obama was a good president, fairly good. Rates? What do you mean rates? For what? Pete Buttigieg? Maybe. He'd be a good candidate. Gavin Newsom? Maybe. Is the current state of AI ethical or unethical? Most AI companies scrap data without permission. Um, I think that's fine. What do you like? A lot of people are so anti like data, like they're so against people scrapping data. I'm like, who cares? Like, I have nothing to hide. Like, what am I hiding? Um, oh, he's a Democrat. He lives here, or he's this. It's all out there. Anybody can see it anyway. It's not like, what are you going to protect, So I'm more liberal on that, but there are ethical implications for AI that are going to appear very soon. As soon as we get to AGI, things are going to get very muddy. Because now we'll have AI agents who can perform tasks like you can. So they'll be able to literally replace employees at jobs. So it's not like, okay, what do we do? Lots of jobs are going to be replaced. People are going to lose their jobs. How do you fix that? Okay, well, let's do UBI. Okay, but where's that money coming from? It's going to be the initial stages of AI and AGI are going to be very, very hard and rough on people. It's going to be scary. So, I don't know how it's all going to play out, but honestly, I used to hate Trump, but now I see how anti-establishment he is. I wouldn't say he's completely anti-establishment, but yes, I agree with you there that he is against, the typical politician kind of thing, but he's doing it the wrong way. I don't think what he's doing is, he's giving billionaires power. He's giving lots of people power that don't deserve that power and don't belong in that kind of position. Right? He's surrounding himself with all the billionaires, and he's forming kind of like an oligarchy. Okay? Yeah, it's anti-establishment, but it's an oligarchy. It's very dangerous. The power that president has he has lots of responsibility. Okay? And although I'm not saying, they're billionaires, therefore don't trust them, but we shouldn't be in this position where we're like, okay, questioning if these billionaires are going to help us or not. That's what I'm concerned about. Let alone the fact that he's getting rid of all these other departments and other things and taking us out of the Paris Accord agreement. And anti-trans bills. I mean, that's wrong. It's ridiculous. That's regressive. That's not helping us. That's regressing us back to the 1920s, 1930s. And so no, although I agree with you that the one good thing is that he's not a typical politician that just regurgitates things. But he's the worst kind of that. He's unhinged. He doesn't know he doesn't follow the science. He's unhinged on what he believes. One day he believes that we should stop TikTok. The next day he likes it because people like it too. He's not a very stable leader. He's not a very stable, decisive person. And that's not who you want running running the country. He's not vetting the people that he's appointing. That's dangerous. This is dangerous. Look, if this kind of thing continues where he's letting all these people have power that don't deserve it, there's going to be a political revolution waiting. Like, it's not going to last long. So people are going to be fed up if they don't have health insurance, and they don't have this and that, and meanwhile billionaires are sucking all the money from the AI and robotics. You know? Look at just what happened today. We had 3 big CEOs, literally the richest people in the world, right? Larry Ellison of Oracle, Sam Altman of OpenAI, the Japanese guy from SoftBank. These guys are worth hundreds of billions of dollars each. They're worth at least $1 trillion collectively. And they now are going to run a huge AI center, robotics. They're going to control all that now. All that power is in their hands now. Just a few people have all that power. That's scary. It's not a good predicament to be in for very long. So, Trump 25, he's your president, stay mad. Well, it's not mad, it's concern, because these are concerns that everybody should have, even if you like Trump. Okay? If this was Biden, I would still be concerned. just because I don't agree with Trump doesn't mean that I have to cry about it. That's just you're just trying to make me upset. You're trying to get a reaction from me, which is fine, but you're not gonna win on that front. So, groceries are still high. They're gonna get higher. Trust me. They're gonna get higher. Okay. If they don't, great. But what is Trump doing to bring them down? What is Trump doing to actually help everyday Americans right now? What has he done to help everyday Americans afford things? You know? I don't know. Concepts? Concepts? We have presidents. He's drilling oil in us. So anyway, Trump orders all federal diversity, equity, equity and inclusion employees placed on paid leave. You just fired all the DEI employees. That's helping people? He doesn't care about people. He's literally firing people for no reason. Literally. He's for the people. No, he's not. You shouldn't fire people just because you don't like them because of because the DI thing, something they don't even control. That's not why you should fire people. That's bad. They weren't being productive. Every single federal employee? I don't think so. I think that it's not about productivity. It's about the fact that he doesn't like the DEI thing, which is understandable. But you don't go ahead and just fire people. Okay, that's not how you solve that. Anyway, I'm done talking politics. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It just sucks me in all the time. Yeah, that's another thing. When people hear DEI, they just think that it's like, oh, they're not supposed to be in that position. When most of those people that are DEI hires are fit for the job. Like, they're not just pulling off random homeless people from the streets and going, here, come on in. You're homeless? Great, DEI. No, like, these people are vetted. And that's just, the point of it is to show that there's equal representation of different backgrounds and people in businesses. It shouldn't just all be white people. That's not how it should be. It should be equal representation, equal opportunity. But at the same time, you have to keep. It's a very complicated situation, but the solution definitely isn't, oh, let's just fire them, or let's just stop everything and just destroy it. That's not the solution either. So, anyway. Mike looks like he's all over. It's so over. The golden age. We're gonna bring back the golden age very strongly. Why don't people believe the moon landing happened? Good question. Why are so many people moon landing deniers? Well, number one, it's not just because they're stupid. Right? That's one of the first things you want to say. Oh, they're just dumb. No. They're misinformed, right? They are not following the scientific method. They don't have the understanding of the scientific method in terms of falsifying things and demonstrating things, and they don't understand that just because you haven't been somewhere doesn't mean that we can't infer that they did that thing. But also they don't understand that we have moon rocks from the moon, and there's plenty of evidence that we went to the moon. We have moon rocks, we have the reflectors on the moon that we use for measuring the distances. We can actually see from space telescopes. And China, in fact, with their instruments landing on the moon, have said that they found Apollo mission stuff from our landing. Take all that into account. It's obvious that we went to the moon, but they don't want to hear it because they have some kind of narrative they want to push. They think everything's a conspiracy. And the reason why is because they fundamentally do not understand that science isn't just about following scientists. See, they come into this with this preconceived notion that science is just about following what the scientists say. That's not science. That's often what is portrayed as science in school. Like, what does school do? School tells you things, the teacher tells you things, and you have to regurgitate it on a test to memorize it. But that's not science. That's not how critical thinking happens. So the way the school system operates, it does not teach critical thinking. So when people like this go out into the real world, they just think, oh, you think that they went to the moon because scientists just say that. But that's not why. There's other reasons why we went to the moon. But they're not thinking critically to recognize that there's other reasons that we used to infer we went to the moon, and they are under the impression that it's all conspiracy because they don't understand that. They don't understand that there are inferences we make. It's not just about what these people say. Oh, look, you believe the scientists? They must be lying to you. They're probably lying to you. How do you know what they say is true? Well, that's not how science is done. That's a distorted understanding of science, which is taught in school. And that's how school teaches it, right? So, as much as you want to point fingers at those people and say, oh, you're just ignorant, go learn, buddy. That's not how we should approach it either, right? We should understand the fuller context here, too. Like I've been saying the whole time, every time somebody disagrees with you, don't just say bad, 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 dumb, dumb, dumb. Understand where they're coming from. That's why, and then they'll listen to you more, right? Be more understandable, be more tolerant. And don't just say, you're stupid for believing in that. Yes, we all do it. But it's time for us to mature. It's time for us to change because it's not working anymore, right? It's only making us more polarized. It's only making us more polarized when we continue doing that. See? I know that I did it in the past. I know that. But I'm changing. And I want to be an example for you and other people to realize that we can be better. Therapist Mike. look, it's important for everybody, if you're in these kinds of spaces, to understand the psychology behind cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias. You have to understand the psychology behind people. If you understand psychology, you will be better able to have these kinds of discussions and help more people. See? Knowledge is power. The more you understand, the more powerful you become. Who are you and what have you done with Mike? I matured. I grew up. People change. It's a typical thing you do. You change, you mature, you grow older. I'm 30 now. Hi, bad kitties. How are you? Mike is the second greatest human. Mike is the second greatest human alive, right behind LeBron. Thank you. Okay. Damn, Mike, you putting on them numbers? Thank you. Are you looking for a wife? Yes. But look, there are times to be aggressive and abrasive. There are times for that too. I'm not just going to be Mr. Nice Guy forever. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm an angel now. No. There's going to be times where you're supposed to get heated and aggressive. But you have to take into account the fact that you shouldn't be that always. You have to know the time and place to be certain ways. Can you explain the nebula? I really don't understand. A nebula is just a collection of gas, hot gas, superheated gas, right? So when a star dies, it either explodes and forms a nebula, or it implodes on itself, and it kind of slowly, its energy kind of slowly leaches away from it, and kind of like fades into the space around it, and it causes a solar nebula, which is what's going to happen to our sun. When our sun dies, it's not going to explode. It's going to slowly implode on itself, but the outer layers of it, which is made of plasma, is going to slowly fade away into space around it, causing a very symmetrical nebula. It looks like an eye, like that. That's a solar nebula right there. See how symmetrical it looks? It's because the gas from that star in the center was stripped away very slowly on all sides equally. So it looks like a circular object, but in reality, if you were to go there, it's just a big collection of dust and gas. It's very hot there. But you wouldn't feel the heat, by the way. There's a difference between temperature and feeling the heat. But anyway, the point is that really what you're seeing in a nebula is just a dead star. It's just the remains of a star. Or some nebulae are formed from the initial gases of space, of the universe. The universe was initially just a huge volume of gas and dust. In terms of hydrogen and helium dust and gas, that stuff collapsed, turns into a star. So sometimes these nebulae can actually form stars, stellar nurseries. So in a way, stars are recycled. They're recycled stuff from the universe. And in fact, when you die and we die, our remains are going to turn back into the earth. Our star is going to implode. And perhaps one day, another star will form from our material. If another star around us goes supernova, and our gas and dust mixes with their dust and gas, and there's enough mass there, it can turn into another star system. Perhaps 5-6 billion years from now, another life form arises with your bits and pieces of material. Mike is on Mount Rushmore of the greatest humans ever. Thank you. Another life form, nothing but mics. So when we die, what happens? Do we just vanish? No, you don't vanish. When you die, you go to where you came from. You came from the earth, the air, the water. Some of the molecules in your body came from the air. In fact, most of them came from the air and the water. Your mother, your parents breathed them in. Those molecules of oxygen and carbon turn into your cell. Your cell went on to use other stuff from its environment to make more cells. Now you are breathing and eating and consuming stuff from your environment. Okay, you are mostly made of the earth. You are made of the earth entirely, but you're made of the stuff around us in nature. And when you die, your body's going to decay, and slowly that material is going to go back into the air, into the soil, into the water. And that's what happens, as far as science understands it. Now, in a religious way, people think that when you die, your soul goes somewhere, but I'm not convinced of that. I don't even know what a soul means. Do you remember Daughter of the Star Creator? Yes, I remember her. That was a long time ago. Why, what about her? Is she atheist now? Have we ever observed information being added to the genetic code? Every day? Yes, every day. They're called mutations. Insertions, deletions, substitutions. Mutations occur all the time in your DNA. When they replicate, your DNA can change. No, I was wondering. I've been here for so many years. Yeah, when I first started TikTok, I used to stitch a lot of Christian creators. Good old times. Back when I knew nothing about anything. I know so much more today than even a year ago. And a year ago, I knew so much more than a year before that. I always strive to learn more every day. And knowledge is accumulated over time, so nothing more in this world there's nothing more I love than learning. It's the most amazing thing I can think of doing. It's amazing to me how people are not amazed by the universe. Every day I go outside and I'm amazed that we're breathing air. It's amazing. I'm amazed that trees exist, that they used photosynthesis. They actually used the solar rays to actually produce sugars and carbohydrates. I'm amazed that water works the way it does, that it flows. I'm just very simple things like that I'm amazed by, and I want to learn more about. I want to learn more about that. For some reason, most people don't care. They take it for granted. It's sad. It's sad to me. Mike has come from out of retirement. Mike missed you. Watching your live since 2020. What do you think of spiritual mediums? I've been to a couple mediums before. Skeptically speaking, I've been to a couple mediums. I was asking them questions that they couldn't answer properly. See, a lot of them cold read, so they'll just pick up on certain cues, very surface level cues, and try to make up a story from there. But I asked very hard questions that they couldn't answer. So to me, it's all a hoax to me. It's all a hoax. Now, this is another realm where it's hard to falsify these things, right? Oh, I'm a medium. I can talk to the dead. Okay, where are they? Well, they're invisible. Okay, how do you talk to them? In my head, right? It's another unfalsifiable territory. But if they're real, show me. Show me good reason to think they are true. If not, you have nothing. So, I think I'm done, guys. I've been here for 2 hours. Way too long. Way too long. I still have good hair for 30, right? Still have some good hair. Five more years and you have nothing. 2 more years and it's gone. It's luscious. Hey Christina, are we going into totalitarianism? I hope not. Yes, a new species arose in Richard Linsky's experiment. Yes. You were bald at 9? Do you remember that Pat kid? Yeah, how do you know that? How do you know all this, Maddie? Like, who are you? How do you know so much about 2020 TikTok? That was way back then. That was like 5 years ago. Mike's generational 2020-2022 run will be forgotten. Yeah, man. For real though, like that was that was a very crazy time, man, for me. Yeah, I didn't let anybody. Yeah, that's kind of the reason why I changed as well. I look back on my old content and I just cringed the whole time, you know. So that's kind of what also influenced me to change. I just got cringed out on my old stuff. Um, but then again, I wouldn't change a thing because I learned because of that experience. You know, it's how life works, man. You do things, you learn, you change. So, yeah, it was entertaining for you, but it wasn't effective. It wasn't really helping too many people. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I helped lots of people for sure, but um, was it doing damage as well? Yes, it was doing damage, but it also was doing some help, but also doing lots of damage. So. But I've probably interacted with fruitfully thousands of people, which I'm very happy for. I'm very privileged to be in this position, and that's why I try to hold other creators accountable for the power they have. Because it's it's a privilege to be a creator and have people enjoy your content. I'm still gonna debate. I'm debating probably next week sometime. I'll be debating. I want to get back into it, but let's start off with some Q&A or some chill live thing first. Being tough on people does help some people change, but it doesn't help the most people, right? Again, if my goal is to help as many people as I can, which it is, I can't be abrasive. You know, it's just not going to be it's not going to be optimally effective. So it's hard, but I grew up with you. That's weird as heck, man, to say, like, I grew up with you for 5 years. That's not weird, like, I'm saying, like, it's weird to hear that, like, somebody saying that they grew up with me. Like, that's weird. What do you think of Dr. Blitz? I don't want to talk about people. I don't want to talk about individual people. Hey, man, hope you're doing. Hope you're having a good year. I'm curious to know 1 to 2 points on atheism. What do you mean, points on atheism? Like, reasons why I'm an atheist? Number one, I think a good argument for atheism is the fact that there's so much unnecessary evil. Like, for example, Why do animals have to suffer in the wild? Why do wild animals suffer? Why is it inherent in the nature of predation and prey and biology itself? Why is there so much inherent suffering? That doesn't seem to be something that a loving God would do. Why are there so many... Look, if God wants a relationship with us, why is he so obscure and hard to find? Why is it that people who really want to have a relationship with God sincerely do, why do they still not believe in God? If God can have a relationship with anybody, if they want a relationship, right? Why are there non-resistant non-believers? You know, where is God? Where is he hiding? Where's the evidence for it? And those are some of the reasons why I'm an atheist. Is your goal to take people away from God? Sorry guys, just noticing how flawless my skin is. Imagine not eating meat. Yeah, imagine not harming animals. Imagine having compassion. Crazy, right? It's freezing here, guys. It's only 45 degrees down here in Florida. It's freezing today. It hasn't been this cold in a long time. This is like, no, I'm serious. This is like a cold spell right now. We're getting a cold spell. It's 45. It's not snowing here, but it's snowing in the Panhandle. That's crazy. What do you think the best evidence of macroevolution is? DNA. Fossils. Like, it's obvious. If you don't think macroevolution is true, you don't understand the fossil record. It's that simple, right? You don't understand the homology, the analogous structures in the fossil record. There's a certain strategy that scientists use to infer the common descent between different animals using the different fossil structures. There's a way to do it. If you understand the chronology in the geological strata, you can find the common descent just on fossils alone. DNA, there's also DNA homology, or you can sequence DNA. You can trace back the mutations, the chromosomal fusions. You can trace back what happened to your DNA through genetic time. What was going on before the Big Bang? There is no such thing as before the Big Bang. We don't even know what that means. Maybe the Big Bang was just a phase the universe goes through. Maybe it was the beginning of time. We don't know. It's hard to tell what is happening if there was a time before. Nobody knows. It's possible that the Big Bang was part of a larger sequence of events. It could be that the Big Bang was the ultimate beginning. Nobody really knows. But it seems to be pointing towards that the Big Bang's not the beginning. It seems to be that there's something more to the story. Yeah, so tomorrow is going to be another cold day, 51. This is freezing for us here. Saturday, it's, Gonna get a little bit warmer, but after Sunday it's gonna be in the 70s and sunny. So pretty excited for next week. I want to get that pool weather going.